there's an impression of what you think a good speaker is. It's someone other than you. Who I want to hear from is you, Jen. I want you. There's only one Jen Gao in the world, and that's who I want to hear from. Most of my life has been all about being perfect, not being able to make a mistake. The same body sensation with being nervous is the same as being excited. Don't give up trying to express yourself. In our culture, we always want to make it look like we have it all together.
Hello, Jill.
Hi, Jen.
I am so excited that we are finally meeting in person and that we get to have this chat together.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I just want to share like how amazing you've been to myself, but also like some fellow entrepreneurs that you've been working with. That's how I found out about you. You've been our speaking coach. You're also a fellow dog mom. And I'm just going to go to a little background about what I've learned about you
Oh, okay.
is that you were a production manager for a leading space, military, and defense manufacturer. You are currently a project manager for a leading global security services and tech integration company, but you're also president of a short term rental company that owns, operates, and manages in both California and going to be in Las Vegas, or is currently. And yeah, I just love all these because these are all clearly high stakes leadership roles where clear, confident, emotionally intelligent communication is necessary.
Mhm.
So, love all that tying together. But also, you've been an assistant speech and debate coach for your high school, even till today, way before you even knew that your passion was about impacting, making positive impact on communication, and knowing my own experience with Asian Americans and how little we prioritize our speech and really those soft skills, right? We kind of prioritize our academics usually. So, first off, how did you get into and know you were even fit for this role?
Oh, wow. So, one, I put as an elective in high school to be in speech and debate because there was an incident. And what the incident was, oh my gosh, I just remembered. So, I was in junior high, eighth grade. And at the end of junior high, they're like, okay, let's do student council elections for the freshman year in high school. And so I went to submit my application and I was going to go for VP or secretary. And someone had already entered their name. So I was like, okay, no one has put in for president. That's going to be easy. I'll go put my name in for president. Then I find out there's someone else who entered their name and now we have to do speeches. Yeah, I was not good. I was terrified. I made a reference to like stickers and my class laughed at me and I was mortified. Now, in hindsight, I probably would have made a joke about it, but I didn't. And so it's like, okay, speech and debate it is. So that was the beginning of my career. And I always just felt comfortable working with high school students. And it wasn't until 2020 in February where Asian Hustle Network had a networking event and they had two keynote speakers. And I was left with, that's great for you, but what about me? And I knew in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, there's just this gap for AAPI community about speaking and how to have like an intention and what do we want to leave the audience with. And it's just not about motivation or things that just die out, like leaving people with action or inspiration such that it moves now to the next level, whatever it is they're committed to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So would you say it's from that kind of pandemic and Asian Hustle Network time that sparked this journey for you to explore your passion more, or was it somewhere else?
It was that.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I guess there is a need. So let's go for it.
Okay. Love it. So what would you say is a common misunderstanding for speaking confidently?
Oh, I think the big thing that I have to do or I look to overcome with people is there's an impression of what you think a good speaker is, and it's someone other than you. And I'm like, no, I have to instill in someone that, like, who I want to hear from is you, Jen, not another Oprah or Barack Obama or whoever you idolize as being a public speaker.
Mhm.
I want you. There's only one Jen Gao in the world, and that's who I want to hear from. And so, whatever it takes to dismantle that image or that thought is the first step that I take.
I love that. Yeah, you've definitely helped me in like very different types of speaking opportunities to feel more confident. But for our listeners, what would you say is 1 to 2 practices that they can do today to speak more confidently?
So, the first thing I would say is being really comfortable with yourself, like embracing your quirks, your mannerisms, like all of it. For me, I know I'm dorky most of the time. And if I want to, like, if I'm just in the mode and I'm just myself, everyone has a great time.
Mhm.
But if I'm worried and I just like, I need to be someone else that I'm not, it just goes downhill. So, embracing and being comfortable with yourself. And the other thing I would say is don't be afraid to make mistakes. I have most of like my first 20 years of my life has been all about being perfect and getting it right and rehearsing and just like not being able to make a mistake.
Mm.
And now it's just like it's what connects me with people. Because I know first impression, I do have a standard that I go by, but it can be intimidating. And that stands in the way of me being connected and related with people. And the moment I make a mistake, they're like, oh, she's normal. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally normal. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. And that just gives you access to people and showing your authentic self.
Yeah. I love that. I have definitely experienced that myself, especially with my students, where once I open up and show some vulnerability, that's actually showing kind of your strength, that your power, so that, once you're able to be vulnerable, it allows them to gives them sort of permission
Yeah.
to be vulnerable too.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Okay. Now, let's say for someone who generally feels a little bit anxious or kind of really anxious around speaking or maybe in general, what's actually happening internally?
Well, your body is going to do what it does. So I've been speaking since I was in high school. I still sweat. I'm probably going to sweat sometime during this podcast. I know a visual that people don't want to see. So it's going to do what it's going to do. And one of the things I learned early on is the same body sensation with being nervous is the same as being excited.
Mm.
It's just what we label it.
Mhm.
So you can say you're anxious or you can say you're excited.
All right. Just all about how we perceive it.
Mhm.
And just really the more we do it, I guess the less bad we'll feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the other thing is it's not like a gen phenomenon that you're anxious. Every human being is anxious. It's just how we're made up and
Mhm.
we can't control that.
Mhm.
So the more you're okay with it and you don't make it wrong, you're just like, okay, that's just part of it. Let's include it and roll with it.
Yeah. And I've also changed my mindset around being nervous and anxious, that clearly this is something I care about.
Yes,
So,
that is definitely something I say.
yeah. Okay. Now, what about for someone who is still building confidence in their English? Maybe their accent makes them feel like they can't be taken as seriously. How could they communicate more confidently when still maybe searching for their words?
Yeah. So one of the things I do more now than before is I pause. When you're being asked questions, there's always that initial response. And today I just go, wait, let me think about that.
Mm.
I really look at how I want to answer the question. So you can even communicate like what's right there. It's like, wait, give me a second. Let me think, and someone's like, oh, okay, you're thinking. So most people are probably like, what's happening? It's just so quiet and they're just trying to fill the space or it's just awkward, right? They're trying to fix the situation. But if you communicate like what's there, everyone can relax.
Mhm.
Like even if you're on a news channel or something, you're just like, I'm just a little nervous or I'm concerned about this.
Mhm.
Sharing that creates a safe space and everyone can just relax a bit and open up some more because you actually became vulnerable,
Right.
right? The other thing is I encourage where you're currently at.
Mm.
So if English is your second, third, or fourth language, not a problem. I'm not here to change that. Now, there's also the aspect of being responsible for it, like being clear or speaking slower or, ensuring that people get your communication, just checking in with them. We do enunciation drills, like I've learned to open my mouth. And so there's different tools that you can like put in place so that you can be understood.
Yeah, I think I saw one tool of putting a pen in your mouth
Yeah.
and then saying the thing that you want to practice.
Yeah.
And then once you do it without the pen, it actually becomes much more clear and slower.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other piece is where people assume the words you're saying mean the same thing. So we're
Mm.
not talking about the same, we're not in the same conversation. And the other piece is that they can keep up with your pace.
Slowing down and pausing has definitely been difficult. But once you do get used to it, it's actually so great.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get to savor the moment and
Mm.
really just be present versus worried about what's happening next and all the other possible concerns you may have.
Right. Yeah. Being able to also not only pause, but be comfortable with silence, I think is something we all have to work on.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I saw something that I've been sharing actually with my students is that most people don't realize that verbal communication is actually the smallest piece of the pie when it comes to communicating.
Mm.
That actually more than 90% is nonverbal. And I've seen this actually 38% of communication comes from tonality and 55% comes from body language. And it makes us so much sense, especially like as dog moms. Like, of course, they don't understand what we're saying, but they
Mhm.
understand our tone and our hand movements, our body movements. So, what would you say are simple ways to improve on our nonverbal communication?
Well, I say first impression. So in the speech and debate world, we have tournaments and students compete. They do their speeches about 3 to 12 times, depending on how far they advance in the tournament and the kind of tournament that you have. And this is where my standard comes in. There's a specific look that you want to exude.
Mhm.
You don't want to be sloppy. You don't want to look like you're just a high school student that doesn't know what they're doing or isn't confident,
Mhm.
right? So we make sure our students look clean, look good. And the other thing is there's this like stigma that high school students don't know what they're doing,
Mhm.
right? So we make them look a little older so that first impression, you can start believing what they're communicating, right? And then it is how you walk into the room.
Mhm.
I have seen students like don't care, they're slouching, and it's just like, okay, now I'm questioning you, and then how you respect other speakers. I've seen students on phones, texting, falling asleep. Those are just like, that just adds to the pile. And whether or not you notice or think anyone's watching you, you're always being watched. And then you get in front of the room and you start speaking.
Mhm.
It's like they've already surmised who you are, what you are, and they have an opinion about you.
Mhm.
So the first impression, as much as we don't like it, is key. And it does create this view that the audience has of you. And then the next piece is, do you build on top of that when you speak, or are you recovering from it?
Yeah, that makes me think of I'm currently reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. And like the most recent chapter was on first impressions and how our smile
Uh huh.
can make such a big difference. And even they've trained like salespeople over the phone to also smile while they're talking because the way you talk will also change when you're just smiling.
Yeah, really like your mood impacts your tonality, right? So if you're really irritated with someone, there's no way you're going to sound excited to talk to them or help them. You're just going to be irritated and they're going to feel that and they're not going to want to work with you.
So, shifting a little bit, could you share a little bit about your cultural background and how it has shaped the way you communicate and show up today?
Oh my goodness. So I am Thai, Laotian, Cambodian, and Chinese. And I guess it's safe to say English is my fourth language. I grew up learning Tuchao, a Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. So, how that impacts me today is it really impacts the way that I think because there's things I process in different languages. And then I have to stop and be like, okay, well, what do I mean or what is interpreted inside of the different languages? The other piece is culturally, like I am the oldest and I'm the second generation. Like my parents fled Cambodia and Thailand from the Khmer regime and communism. And growing up, there was like a lot of rules, like being the oldest and being female. I couldn't chase boys, didn't know that that was a thing. It was like in the fourth grade or something. I also couldn't stay out late. Oh, one of the big things was at the dinner table, it was quiet time. There was no talking.
Mhm.
And I could see that that stifled my ability to share stories or to talk about things. And this is what I saw commonly with the AAPI community. Because then by the time we're in our 20s, we're starting to formulate our words, our sentences, like our narrative, like what's our story? Who are we? And you have our other peers who've been talking, sharing their emotions and their feelings since they were like in the single digits.
Mhm.
So they have 15 years ahead of us.
Mhm.
So it's now like catch up time. So I'm really now intentional about how things are phrased or how things are communicated and ensuring that the communication not only fully expresses what I'm feeling and that I feel like I'm expressing myself, but it's also received by the receiver.
Yeah, that makes me think back to my family. Right, it's often quiet at the dinner
Yeah.
table. But then I also think of like I was kind of watching Matthew McConaughey talk, and he talked about, like, how, yeah, he developed his storytelling skills because they just shared so many stories at the dinner table.
Mhm.
So is that something that you're kinda changing now at your dinner table?
Yeah, I think it's really, if there's something for me to communicate, like with my partner, I make it a point to communicate it right then and there
Mhm.
versus to try and table it,
Mhm.
or wait for the next right opportunity. So I'll pick up the phone and call my parents and say, hey, like this is what I'm communicating. And it's actually been really great because my mom, she would call me and she would tell me, like, I've upset her. And I was like, "Oh my god, like, I don't wanna upset my mom," but I don't think she has ever communicated that to me before.
Mhm.
So now I'm creating this safe space for us to communicate
Right.
our feelings, like what we want, what we need.
Mhm.
And my dad, now that we're older, he shares a lot more stories about the time when he was running from Cambodia or like how he immigrated over here and all of that. And so, we get to have a sense of what he went through when he was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely experiencing the same now. Is we're all aging, but my dad is also, and he's sharing more stories about their family history, and it's been lovely to just be able to communicate in that way more.
Yeah.
I guess I have a side question. So I've been also learning more about how we as women can talk about money more since that's not as common.
Mhm.
So how's that been like, whether at your dinner table or with your family, being a business owner?
Yeah, so it's actually more of a conversation with my friends.
Mm.
So we used to have this group that's called Rich Bitches. It was us entrepreneurs trying to like conquer the world. But it really is tangent. Like I'm a firm believer, like the more hours you spend on something, the better you'll get at, right? But then it's also how much do we talk about it or interact with it?
Mhm.
So being an entrepreneur and really like jumping in, it's like, well, what do we have to talk about? Like we have to talk about money.
Mhm.
We have to talk about the profit and loss statement and whether or not we're making money in our business and what the real deal is.
Mhm.
And yeah, sometimes it's not pretty. Most of the time it's not. And just being free to do that in a safe space with a community that doesn't judge you for where you're at. Right. And then there's the aspect of like personal net worth, talking about retirement and what are the rules and asking people who have done it. Like, okay, can you mentor me? And what's the pathway?
Mhm.
And then, like, doing the work, right? Because they can give you all the advice in the world. We have lots of books on it. But if we don't do the work or ask the questions that come up from my perspective, it's like, wait, but how does this work? Or how does that work? Like, it's not making sense to me. Like, getting all of that clear so that I can have that plan so that I can retire sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is definitely having more conversations
Mhm.
with people who you feel comfortable with or aligned with,
Mhm.
and definitely just keep taking action.
Yes.
Yeah. Love it. What were some unspoken rules growing up around speaking up or expressing yourself that you've sort of changed the narrative around for yourself?
You don't speak up. It's definitely one us.
Right. Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Did you never like fight back on that?
No,
Okay.
I think early on, I took on the identity of being a good girl to survive. And yeah, I followed directions. I tried to not want to get spanked,
Yeah.
getting in trouble. Like that was just not good. I
Mhm.
just didn't like it. So it was doing everything to avoid that, right? No, doesn't mean that I didn't hide stuff and try and get away with stuff. It just was like I was very coy and good at not getting caught too. So unspoken rules, yeah, not speaking up, like respecting the elders and doing what you're told.
Hmm. What about when you got into the speech and debate world? Were your parents supportive of that?
Yeah, so anything academic wise or that was good for my college application
Mhm.
worked really well.
Okay.
Other than that, like there was no movie weekends going out to the malls with friends.
Mhm.
It was like, oh, I'm staying late because of practice. Like
Okay.
that was the extent that I could get away with. But the my parents on the flip side, right? It was what they knew to have to support me in ensuring that I had a good education and that their efforts to make it to the States wasn't wasted.
Okay. So, since you were in a childhood of, I guess, not speaking up and definitely always being respectful, so what did reclaiming your voice look like while still honoring your roots?
Oh, wow. I think I'm still discovering that today. So there's been like a series of life events that has had me or forced me to learn how to like speak up for myself as an adult.
Mm.
So first and foremost, like I was married, and at the end of my marriage or towards the end, my husband, he was sick and then started abusing drugs and alcohol because that made him feel normal.
Mm.
And there was one point where I was like, wow, the only person that's interested in my well-being is me in this relationship.
Mm.
Now, granted, he talked about getting sober and this was the last time, and I was holding on to the hope
Mhm.
that this would work out, but that hope came at a cost.
Mhm.
And, they talk about in the addiction world, like when they hit rock bottom is when they will get well. And for me, I hit my rock bottom to where I finally say, no, there is another way. Now, it doesn't mean that I stopped loving him and stop like wanting him to get well. There was like, I am a stand that you get well and you do whatever you need to do and get the whatever help that you need.
Mhm.
And it's not going to look this way anymore. And so then I went through the whole process of like getting divorced, getting that settled. He went to rehab and then, off to Vietnam he went. And I took care of the dogs. I took care of like getting myself into a new place,
Mhm.
which was the first place I lived in on my own, which was like, didn't know that was in the horizon, which was great. And that was what happened personally for me to reclaim my voice. And then, like, a couple months later, I had this guest tenant in a house one of my Airbnbs. And it was just like, hey, we have an ant problem. I was like, okay, here's ant spray for nothing. Hey, the washer put holes in my clothes. And I'm like, that's weird. They're like, it's brand new. We can give you receipts. I was like, great. Give me photos. Show me how things are. In the end, it turned out to be like a total scam. Like they were just complaining, but unwilling to provide the proof. And I was hysterical. It totally felt like I was being taken advantage of and I had no power. And given that I wanted to be a good girl and not want to get in trouble and not wanting like the police to get involved or whatever authorities, right? Like, our minds are very imaginative. So it's like it can escalate the trouble that I would get into. But it was really like talking to my friends about what I was going through and them putting the sense in me and say, okay, who can you talk to? Where can we get advice? Like, how can we deal with this? And there was a lawyer I knew. I spoke to him and he's like, this is what you can do. You can pay them a couple $100 to see if they go away. At most, they would take you to small claims court and sue you for $4,000, or you just stop communicating with them. And in that moment, I said, I am going to stop communicating with them because their communications are illogical, hysterical, and they upset me. And I'm putting my health and well-being above everything else. And if they take me to court, that's fine. I have all these witnesses. I have all these text messages and emails and requests for photos and no evidence provided. So they've been like not doing what I have been asking. And hopefully the judge would rule in my favor, right? But I'm going to take that chance. And I haven't heard from them. So it's been, little opportunities or incidences where in my business where guests would take advantage of me. And I just get to stand my ground and say, like, no, we're not going to go this way. I am pretty logical. I have processes in place. I'm not a terrible person. I try to be fair. And if, you may not agree with me, and that's okay. And we don't have to be jerks about it.
So that guest moved out though?
Oh, yeah, they moved out. I
Okay.
made sure they moved out.
Okay.
Ah, don't
Yeah.
I can tell you about my latest guest issue. But yeah, they moved out and I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
And
Because they knew they were being ridiculous.
well, they probably knew it was a scam.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, perfect. I think segue to the next question. How, in general, would you say you balance being compassionate and respectful while being firm? Right? Let's say it's a situation where you're not going to stop communication, maybe particularly with family nowadays or colleagues.
It's really interesting. I have had like a situation in one of my units where the sliding door to the closet fell over. And, she has a son. The son might have gotten hurt, but he didn't. And she was hysterical and demanded like the cleaners to come clean the mess and someone to fix the glass window. And this happened at 8 o'clock at night. Well, at 9, the cleaners came, cleaned everything up. And I said, it's too late. I can't get a contractor. The contractor will come up the next morning. And she spent the night at a hotel. Not a problem. I completely get it, understand. And I can empathize with a mother who's freaking out.
Mhm.
The next day, I was like, hey, the contractor can come over. And she's like, no, I don't want this fixed. Just leave it as is. Okay, not a problem. She proceeds to say, like, I want a full refund for this month's stay, but she's only stayed for about a week. And I was like, well, no. I mean, I can understand that this whole situation was upsetting and I'm willing to reimburse you for night stay, but a whole month for where you haven't even stayed for a quarter of it, like, seems a bit ridiculous. And she came back and forth and didn't say anything, right? And I was like, okay, situation's taken care of. And the last week of her stay, she's like, okay, fine. I want 2 weeks reimbursed. I was like, no, had you come back and say that you didn't accept my offer for one night, I would have said, fine, let's cancel the reservation. You can find another place and I'll go find another guest. Not a problem, But no, you stayed till the very end to demand now 2 weeks. And then she proceeds to say, hey, if you don't give me my 2 weeks, I'm going to report you to the city. I was like, go ahead. Go report me to the city. I will reimburse you the one night that I said I would. And frankly, like, that's not okay. And you're taking advantage of a host who, this wasn't a malicious intent. We didn't know. I've had cleaners, designers, people in there, and they didn't see that it was going to be an issue.
Mhm.
And I hadn't heard anything. It was really one of those times. It's like, do I succumb to being taken advantage of, or do I succumb to like what's fair?
Mhm.
And, I think 2025 was really the year of like, here's another opportunity, Jill. Being taken advantage of, or are you going to stand up for what's fair? And like, it is not easy. It is not fun. Like, I sweat, I cry, I tell my friends, and they walk me through it. And then in the end, it's like, okay, what is the best practice here as someone who wants to be fair? And I'm still running a business.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really hard when you're dealing with so many different types of people, especially in the short-term rental space.
Yeah.
So many new clients over time.
Yeah. And it was actually, I've been in the short term rental space since 2018. And 2025 was the hardest year of just one incident after another. And I don't know, it was interesting because there was the Eaton fire. So a lot of families were
Right.
displaced. And
Right.
so it just added a whole level of like stress and anxiety and
Mhm.
uncertainty to the whole community.
Mhm.
And that's who I was hosting. I was just hosting displaced families.
Mhm.
And you just get a mix. Like, some are really great and some who are just like, I'm trying to find the next place I can stay.
And I think in those times or in general, it's just important to be grateful for especially the good guests and good
Yeah,
experiences that we get.
for sure.
I do want to go back to that question, but more so around family, just
Mhm.
because I know a lot of our listeners, even personally myself, like just having such difficult relationships with family growing up and not being able to talk about our issues. And we're very good at like avoiding
Uh-huh.
pushing away the issues. So, yeah, what was maybe a time where you had to have that tough talk and how'd you deal with it?
I don't know if I ever did, which is probably why I didn't answer that piece of the question earlier or in the beginning. So there was a couple things. Like, as I was like 18 or 19, I did a lot of personal development courses. And I really just got my persistent complaint about my parents. And like, my mom was like, she kept nagging me, and just my world as a teenager was like, kept demanding so much of me. And it was never enough. I was never good enough for my mom. That was like my mantra in my relationship with my mom.
Mhm.
And my dad was like, he was never around. So he never loved me.
Mhm.
So those were the like teenage identities that I carried with me, which created a lot of resentment
Mhm.
about my parents. And during the courses, I really just got the commitment behind all the actions from my mom and my dad. So my dad worked a lot to provide for our family. And, even though we weren't rich, we weren't middle class, we were both blue collar, barely making it, living on free lunch. But it's like whatever opportunity I wanted inside of school, like going to overnighters for speech, like they provided. My brother and I were both in band, and like any activity you do growing up, even now, is not cheap. It requires money.
Yeah.
So, like, we got to do things. And my mom, her persistent nagging, it just was like inside of making sure we got the best opportunities. Even though they didn't say I love you, their love language was different. And so I got to see that. And I got to call them and tell them, oh God, you're going to make me cry.
I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling it too. That was good. Whatever you're comfortable with.
All of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just got to just thank them. And I told them that their job got done. And look, my parents, they still do the same thing. I mean, if I go back home, because I live in California, if I go back home after I think 8 days, my dad will start irritating me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, it's like being so resolved about that and so settled that they love me and they did their best.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were in their shoes, I wouldn't do it any other way because I didn't know any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Anything my mom does is just so darn cute. It just is like, I just sit there. I was like, oh my gosh, she's just so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And anything my dad does, it's like, okay, he is cute and adorable too, but he loves me. Like, I'll drive back home and he'll take all of my suitcase and my stuff upstairs for me.
Mm-hmm.
And my dogs, he'll take Ollie out for walks because Ollie loves gong gong. And, and he'll feed him
Mm-hmm.
as much as I don't want him to feed them like human food. He'll feed them and he's gotten better. And now it's just like we get to have the conversations about like, well, where do you want to be buried? What do you want the end of your life to look like? And I told they live in a townhouse that's like 3 stories. And I said, Dad, if it comes to a point where you can't do the stairs, you cannot fight me when we need to move you to a 1-story place, and they're like, we don't want to move to Vegas. I was like, that's fine. You don't have to. The other day, my mom called me. She's like, we're taking a cruise to Mexico. I was like, Mom, do you know what's happening in Mexico? She's like, no, what's happening? I was like, the cartels. She's like, what's the cartels? I was like, it's like the gangs. She's like, oh, but we have 40 friends going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care if 40 of your friends are going. If it is not a safe location, you're not going. She's like, I just paid for the tickets. I was like, I don't care. I'm arguing with my mom that she can't do things with her friends because I want her to be safe, right?
Yeah.
And so she's just really great about it. And it's kind of felt like role reversal there. But she's like, well, your dad just sits at home. I was like, okay, fine. So I've looked. Their Ensenada location is questionable. And I said, you do not get to leave the boat. And she said, okay. So they're going to go on this cruise with 40 of their friends.
Hmm. Well, I love that you have almost kind of come full circle with your parents but also come to like a middle ground and how you can communicate, but also show love to each other and really find peace for yourself. Because I know growing up in the kind of strict Asian household can be tough, but it seems like you've really found your way to make it as great as possible.
Yeah. I'm really grateful because now we just get to talk about things and get like, my mom will still ask me to do things for her. Like, hey, I have jury duty and sends me the photo of her registration. And I'm like, I register her online. I have all her online access because, she's great with technology, but also she loves to ask for help.
Right. Which is common, for our immigrant parents. They just don't know like this kind of stuff. So it can be a lot for us to help out with that stuff.
Yep.
Do you take care of yourself while you are consistently showing up, whether for your clients, your parents, your partner, your dogs?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I didn't always take care of myself. I would run myself down. It wasn't until I said I'm getting a divorce and I went to therapy that I just started processing and become more emotionally aware about how I process things.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, it's still something my therapist acknowledges me because when she first met me, she's like, why don't you take a day off? I said, oh, no, I can't do that. And now I'm just like, oh, I just took 2 days off. Like, oh, people were in town and I just took the day off. She's like, oh my gosh, it's so great. And there's different ways I feel my soul. And it's just being aware and cognizant of that. So one of the things is ensuring that I am taking care of my health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And there's various modalities. Like I go to acupuncture, I go to PT, I go to chiropractor. I've really taken on my health. Like I have a goal to shave my mile run time this year by 25%. Now my starting time is like really high. It's not like an 8-minute mile. And then really like getting the boys out and about, right? Like going on 12 hikes this year at national parks. And so there's the fun stuff. And my boyfriend completely loves adventure. So there's like going out of the country and going to a new state. Those are, oh, I should preface like I created a bingo card for myself this year, and the game is to get a blackout. Mm. So I came up with 15 squares of my goals for the year, and five are just random things like something that I didn't think I was going to accomplish this year or in my lifetime. So those are open, right, for surprises and magic in life. And the other five, my partner got to pick. So I made it well rounded. But it's also like being around my students and making the difference or giving them like the freedom to express themselves. That fills me, being with my friends and we're accomplishing our goals. That is like self care to me. And, just taking care of myself. Oh, I'm catching up on my Grey's Anatomy and Bridgerton too.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is just making time for the stuff that is basically not work related and being okay with taking a moment or time off to be able to just do the things that you love and bring you
Mhm.
joy.
Yeah.
Now you sounds like you're much more supported and happier in your relationship with your boyfriend. So
Yes.
yeah, what does healthy communication look like in a relationship and what really should people prioritize?
Oh my goodness. I think there's an aspect of knowing where I don't know if this is going to land, but like where the upset is coming from. In the beginning, there was still like a lot of processing from me. Like, oh, I can identify that me being upset here was from when I was younger or from when I was like in my relationship. Like, I have this point of view now because from my marriage, right? Like, on the day of the intervention, I remember vividly, like, I hired an intervention coach to help me through it because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And, after the intervention, it was not successful. We all reconvened in a hotel lobby. And the coach, he said this to everybody that was there. Like, now we understand how sick Dave is. And I looked at him and I was like, you mean I'm not crazy? He's like, no. So I turned over to the left, my buddy Keith. And I said, Keith, you're going to have to remind me that I'm not crazy because all of the gaslighting and all of like living under the same roof as a partnership with my ex husband, I really thought I was crazy.
Mm.
And so there was breaking that down and dismantling that, right? So knowing that I am not well and I will be well and that I am still processing things, taking that ownership really creates the whole sense of like avoiding projecting things onto my partner.
Mhm.
And he just granted me the space for me to process. So, there's that piece that I think contributes greatly to a healthy, safe partnership of like owning the shit that's yours and allowing someone the opportunity to support you as you're owning and processing that. And I would communicate what was there. And I made clear that he knew that there wasn't an expectation, or actually, I didn't want him to do anything with my communication. Because sometimes just communicating that you're upset disappears the upset. And, there was like, it wasn't until the end of my marriage where I was like, oh, there's things as red flags. Like, what are those? And identifying them for myself and then communicating them.
Okay. Right. It starts with self-awareness, but I love that you took action to work with therapists, coaches to really support you in that and that your now partner is really open to that.
Yeah,
Mm.
it really makes a difference. Not trying to figure out life on your own.
And I think of, a lot of the whether immigrants or just kind of people that I know is or even personally myself is like we tend to want to be independent
Hmm.
because I think that's what we're used to, part of that culture of not speaking up a lot. And it's like, oh, we can do this on our own. But right, it's just so beneficial really to have that community or some sort of support system
Yeah.
in any like phase of life.
Yes. I don't know if it's necessarily like wanting to do it on our own, but there is in our culture an aspect of saving face and not willing to talk about the struggles. And we always want to make it look like we have it all together. And each time I share myself, like the good and bad, right? It specifically the bad, it challenges that notion that I have to have it all together.
Mm.
Which is why I, as a speech coach, love it when people screw up and love the authenticity and the crying and the emotions because that's what's real. We all have them.
Yeah.
It's, if you don't show it, like you're suppressing it. And how healthy is that?
Right. I'm just thinking about my dad, just like that, right? It's always about saving face. I don't want to look bad, but definitely my relationship with him has evolved. We're to the point where I found ways for us to communicate in a different way, and now he can say I love you, or we can say I love you to each other. And just realizing, like, yeah, maybe our ways of, healing, like going to therapy and all that, may not be for someone like him, but
Mhm.
it really starts with us to be able to kind of ignite that change.
For sure. I know my dad was he's the oldest male that immigrated over here, right? So having that role of needing to provide and being the strong leader and direct family, right?
Mhm.
Everybody was intimidated by him,
Mm.
you know? And like my cousins were like scared. And it wasn't until like I thanked him and we started expressing love. Like, he laughs and he hugs and, like, I swear, Ollie, my, golden doodle, he just is goofy as heck, and my dad just loves it, and he just cracks up because of this crazy dog.
Mhm.
But I remember my cousins coming over for, like, Chinese New Year or something, and they were saying goodbye, and they were like, "What do we do?" I was like, "You can hug him. He hugs now." And they're like, "What?" And they hugged him.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Right, just little changes as possible, and especially with our dogs. In the beginning, it's like, "Oh, I don't wanna wash this dog." But, like, over time, it's like, "No, you love this dog." And especially the whole with the food,
Yes.
that's their, like, love language.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So they make braised pork, okay, and, they put egg in it, so you have braised egg. So when I tell them I'm bringing Archer and Ollie, they make sure to have extra,
Mhm.
and they will give them rice and the egg. Well, they ran out of eggs, so they boiled more eggs, and it was plain, and Ollie didn't eat it. So they're like, "Oh, man, we gotta make more braised eggs so Ollie will eat it." I was like, "You do not need to give this child braised egg. He will be fine."
No, it's a must.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, but I, like, really adore it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing.
I guess more in the public speaking kind of role, because
Mhm.
again, I found you through fellow entrepreneurs that I know have, publicly spoke a lot. How would you say you regulate yourself before these kind of high stake conversations or speaking opportunities?
Oh, when I listen to music to hype myself up. And I think it really comes down to like the first sentence. Like after the first sentence, I'm just like in the mode and I just go. The other thing is sometimes what I do is I have a friend that's like on standby for me to communicate all of my thoughts, my concerns, my feelings, my worries. I'm just like, here, I'm going to give it to you. I just like empty myself out so I can just be fully present and here in the moment.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we all need that kind of friend on the
Standby.
yeah. Oh, but definitely the music thing. I was doing that before this. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I also have some questions from some community members.
Oh,
And first one is, what advice do you have for someone interviewing? Right. And how might you structure your message or questions during an interview? Like, would you let the conversation flow and ask questions at the end, or maybe weed them in as you go?
I like the weaving because it seems more natural. We're having a conversation. Granted, I don't know how many people are going to view this conversation, but it really is. It's just we're having this conversation one on one, and there are aspects. So, one of the things inside of my public speaking coaching is I don't come from the perspective is like, how do I make you a better speaker? It's like, how do I make you a better speaker that's more authentic and self expressed self? And how is the audience going to receive your communication? So that's why I look at like content. I look at creating your body structure to ensure that you can withstand speaking for like 10, 20 minutes. It takes a lot of stamina
Mhm.
and being free when you're communicating or delivering your speech, right?
Mhm.
And so I look at like, what's the intention of your communication? And then one of my rules that I follow is how do you say more with saying less? We're just so inundated with so much information coming so fast and so short. It's like, how do we slow it down? and prevent overburdening someone or the audience from processing.
Right. I feel like that comes with practice. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be able to practice potential questions to really have your response be succinct and to the
Yes.
point.
Yeah. It definitely takes time. It takes effort and it takes being conscious about it.
Okay. And another question is, as an educator who is speaking to students, or an administrator who's speaking to staff, or even a business owner who's speaking to clients or maybe parents, how can we stay true to our own values and voice while still ensuring that the audience feels like the conversation is for them?
So, one of the techniques that I use when preparing a speech is putting things on the court instead of talking about concepts or theories or like imagine this.
Mhm.
By putting it on the court, like me sharing examples of like my family and talking to my dad or like my dad hugging, right? That's on the court. You can visualize that. And automatically you get to bring up your own life to it and you get to see like how that relates to you.
Mhm.
So sharing ourselves have allows the audience to bring themselves into the conversation.
Okay. So would you say like that's the main way to kind of have that balance while, because like then how do you shift from that story to back to the audience?
So it's a dance. So that actually happens all at the same time.
Well, that sounds a little tough, but I guess it goes back to the practicing part, or even practicing, just storytelling.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. Like when you were talking about your story about when you first got your dog, like being on the court, I was like right there with you. It was just so great. And I just got a piece of you.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I just like, oh my gosh, my dogs,
Mhm.
like the love and the triumph and the excitement, like that naturally just came up for me. It's not something to work on in terms of like having the audience feel something. It is really ensuring like, am I being vivid? Am I telling a story? Or am I talking about something? Those two avenues are actually really hard for people to get these days.
Mm.
They think communication is just like, I'm just saying words. But no, communication comes in all forms. That you can be a professor and lecture at the podium. Everyone's going to fall asleep. But have you seen those like TikTok videos of where the science teacher is like, here, let me show you how science actually works. And boom, like we're blowing something up.
Mhm.
Everyone's engaged because you're no longer talking about something.
Mhm.
We're living and experiencing it.
Right, going back to being more vivid
Yeah.
and how I like the saying that stories stick.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So, what is something that you're currently growing into or working through relating to your voice or identity?
So, my mantra for this year is glow up and blow up. I've struggled a lot inside of the confidence and being in my career and being an entrepreneur. It's just like I've played small, I've been hesitant to take action, I've like stayed at the same job for a while, and I know I can do more. There's hundreds and thousands of people I can make a difference with, right? And I haven't done that. So, this year is about that, like shifting how I know myself in this area of my life.
I love it. What would you say is something that we haven't discussed yet that you feel needs to be shared or heard?
Oh, here is something. We're ever evolving. And I've learned that I am proud of myself now. And there is still a trajectory in where I'm going.
Right. To be proud and grateful for where you've come now, and just knowing, trusting
Yes.
that there's, much more to come, and
Yeah.
that you will glow up, and you are glowing up, and you will blow up.
Yes. And it is messy.
Mm.
So, how messy are we willing to get?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. To kind of be mentally prepared for that mess is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like it's really interesting. We talk about, our goals and what we want to achieve, right? But we don't talk about the pathway to get there
Mhm.
or what that means.
Mhm.
And really, what that means is you're going to be challenged, you're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to cry and get upset and be frustrated and feel taken advantage of. And, you know, opportunities will come and they will disappear, and like disaster will come and it will disappear. It's all of that. We don't talk about that, but that is what you sign up for when you create that goal right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've heard more recently that embarrassment is an underexplored emotion.
I can see that.
So it's like, part of that mess is like keep sharing it. Keep
Yeah.
sharing it. It doesn't feel as bad anymore.
Yes. And that's the other thing to not stop sharing.
Well, I love that we are sharing more today.
Yes.
Now, for our younger generation or even your younger self, what would be one piece of advice you have for learning to use the voice?
Don't give up trying to express yourself or don't stop talking about things that matter. It all starts with a conversation.
Yeah. And oftentimes the anxieties leading up to the conversation is way scarier than like the actual conversation itself.
Yeah. And then, like the dream to be an entrepreneur or a millionaire or to provide for our parents, right? Like we go through trials and tribulations and get defeated. And then, I see myself like I stopped sharing about it
Mm.
because I'm now resigned that I can't make it happen.
Mhm.
And it's like, nope, you just get back on the horse and you try again.
Now we're gonna do a quick rapid
Oh,
fire round.
rapid fire.
All right, just whatever comes to mind. So, a phrase or practice used to ground yourself before speaking.
Breathing.
One communication habit people should stop.
I would say open your mouth. So stop talking without moving your lips.
Mm.
It's very annoying.
Okay, so open your mouth more. When do you feel most powerful in your voice?
There's this like emotion of where I'm like believing in something and I'm standing for something. And it's like I'm fighting for something.
Okay. What's a fear you had to unlearn?
I don't know. I can't think of one. Pass.
A favorite book or podcast that shaped your communication style?
Okay. So it's not a book or podcast. It is a college course I took.
Oh.
It's interesting. I was in debate for like 3 years, but when I took a logic course in college at my community college, it made so much sense.
Mm.
I was like, oh, that would have been helpful when I was in debate.
Mm. Okay, so anything on logic.
Yeah.
Got it. And finish the sentence. Confidence is not blank, it is blank.
It is not inherited, it is learned
Mm. Yes.
or developed. I think developed.
Absolutely. Right. We're not born with
Yeah.
confident communication skills
No.
or negotiation skills. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. And going back, let me reword this. A self care habit you've had to develop.
Traveling and taking time off.
Okay. Love it. And for our closing questions. So, in your goals of glowing up and blowing up, maybe how can the Suamora community support you or just people in general doing similar work?
We keep talking about this. More people share, more people reach out, and we align on our goals.
Okay. Love it. Yeah. We're going to keep doing it.
Yep.
And where can our audience connect with or work with you?
They can reach out to you to connect with me or find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, awesome. Yes, we will post all that, share all that. And lastly, to relating to Suamora's name, what does resilient love look like for you?
I actually had to like Google or look up the dictionary of resilience, and it had the definition was something along lines like returning to the original self. And I thought that was interesting because I don't agree with that. Like, whatever we're dealing with in life, our circumstances, as we move through it, it's not to go back to who we were before it. As we move through it, like you're going to be a new person with now new skills, new confidence, new, like the lessons you've learned from that experience. So you could say a better self, but I would probably say like a more authentic self to your self expression of the difference you want to make, the impression you want to live on this planet, like the contribution you are for the world.
Okay. Right. Just keep figuring that out.
Yeah.
Keep finding that out for yourself.
Yes. Accepting the circumstances, seeing like where that leads you, because it all there's a pathway and we're on it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on this path with me and supporting me on this
Yeah.
path.
Thank you
And
for the invitation, Jen.
of course, we have a little something
Oh,
for you. This is for you.
oh my goodness. Thank you.
Of course. And I've made a flower part of Suamora's logo because going back to the saying that, we shouldn't be only giving flowers at our deathbed. It should be in general. And here's me giving my flowers to you as I really appreciate the work you're doing, the inspiration you're giving, and just all the support that you're giving to all your loved ones and all your clients. And I hope you keep doing what you're doing. And I love it.
Thank you. You keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Jill.